Title: The Light of Two Hearts. Chapter 1: The Lantern Festival. The bus stopped at the edge of Mistwood, a small village surrounded by misty hills. Elise Carter, a 19-year-old artist with long black hair and quiet blue eyes, stepped off, clutching her sketchbook. The air smelled of rain and wildflowers. She had come to spend the summer with her grandmother, hoping to find inspiration for her art. The city had felt too loud, too gray, and she needed a change. "Mistwood is so pretty," Elise said softly, her voice full of wonder. The village was alive with lights. It was the night of the Lantern Festival, a tradition where people floated glowing lanterns on the river, making wishes. Elise's grandmother, Nana Rose, waited at the bus stop. She was short, with silver hair and a warm smile. "Welcome, dear," she said, hugging Elise. "The festival is starting. Let's go." They walked to the river, where lanterns glowed like stars on the water. Elise watched, her heart light. She saw a young man with messy brown hair and green eyes, tying a lantern to a string. He wore a blue jacket and smiled at the children around him. Nana Rose waved at him. "Rowan, come meet my granddaughter." Rowan walked over, his smile shy. "Hello, I'm Rowan. I live here. I fish with my dad." "I'm Elise," she said, her cheeks warm. "I'm visiting for the summer." Rowan handed her a lantern. "Make a wish," he said. "The stars will hear it." Elise wrote her wish on the lantern. "I want to find something real." She let it float on the river, watching it glow. Rowan's lantern floated beside hers, and their lights mixed together. "Do you like the festival?" Rowan asked. Elise nodded. "It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it." Rowan smiled. "It's my favorite night. The lanterns make the village feel magic." They talked as the festival continued, the sound of laughter and water all around. Elise felt a spark in her chest, something new and warm. She didn't know it yet, but that night would change everything. The next day, Elise sat on Nana Rose's porch, sketching the river. She couldn't stop thinking about Rowan. His smile, his kind voice, it stayed in her mind. Nana Rose brought her tea. "You look happy, dear," she said. "I met someone," Elise said, blushing. "Rowan. He's nice." Nana Rose laughed. "Rowan is a good boy, but he's tied to Mistwood. He's afraid to leave." Elise looked at the hills. "I'm only here for the summer. Then I have to go back to the city." "Sometimes love finds a way," Nana Rose said. "Follow your heart, Elise." Elise decided to find Rowan. She wanted to know him better. She walked to the river, hoping he'd be there. Chapter 2: The Rainy Walk. Elise found Rowan by the river, fixing a fishing net. The sky was gray, and rain started to fall, soft and steady. "Rowan," she called, waving. He looked up and smiled. "Elise, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," she said, her voice shy. "Can I help?" Rowan nodded. "Sure, but it's raining. Let's find shelter." They ran to a small wooden bridge, the rain tapping on the roof. Elise laughed, brushing water from her hair. "I love the rain," she said. It makes everything feel alive. Rowan smiled. Me too. It's peaceful. They sat under the bridge, watching the river. Elise opened her sketchbook and showed Rowan her drawings, city streets, flowers, and now, the lanterns from the festival. You're really good, Rowan said, his eyes wide. I don't draw, but I like making things. I carve wood. Show me sometime, Elise said. I will, Rowan promised. They talked for hours, the rain falling around them. Elise learned that Rowan had lived in Mistwood his whole life. He loved the village, the river, the hills. But he also seemed sad. Why don't you ever leave Mistwood? Elise asked. Rowan looked down. My mom left when I was little. She said the village was too small. I'm scared if I leave, I'll lose everything, like my dad did. Elise touched his hand. I understand, but sometimes leaving can be good. The city is big and loud, but it has art, music, new people. Rowan nodded. Maybe, but Mistwood is my home. The rain stopped, and the sun peeked through the clouds. Elise and Rowan walked back to the village, their shoulders brushing. Elise felt her heart grow warmer. She liked Rowan more than she expected. That night, Elise lay in bed, listening to the rain. She thought about Rowan's words. He was scared to leave, but she had to go back to the city at the end of summer. Could they be together? She didn't know, but she wanted to find out. Chapter 3. The Wooden Star. A week later, Elise met Rowan at the village market. The sun was bright, and the air smelled of bread and flowers. Rowan held a small wooden box. I made something for you, he said, his cheeks red. Elise opened the box. Inside was a wooden star, carved with tiny flowers. It glowed in the sunlight. It's beautiful, she said, her eyes shining. Thank you, Rowan. I carved it from driftwood, he said. It's a star to remind you of the lanterns and Mistwood. Elise hugged him, her heart full. I'll keep it forever. They spent the day together, walking through the hills, picking wildflowers and laughing. Elise felt like she was in a dream. She had never felt so happy. But as they sat by the river, her phone rang. It was her mom. Elise, you need to come back to the city for a few days, her mom said. There's an art show, and they want to show your paintings. Elise's heart sank. But I'm in Mistwood, she said. It's important, her mom said. You'll be back soon. Elise hung up and told Rowan. He looked sad but smiled. That's amazing, Elise. You should go. I don't want to leave you, she said. I'll be here, Rowan said. I'll wait for you. Elise nodded, but she felt a knot in her stomach. She didn't want to go back to the city, not yet. The next day, Elise took the bus to the city. She stood in the art gallery, her paintings on the walls. People smiled and clapped, but Elise felt empty. The city was loud, the lights too bright. She missed Mistwood. She missed Rowan. She held the wooden star in her pocket, thinking of him. When she called Rowan that night, his voice was quiet. I miss you, he said. I miss you too, Elise said. I'll be back soon. But deep down, she worried. What if the city pulled her away for good? Chapter 4. The Distance. Elise returned to Mistwood after 3 days. The village felt like home now, the misty hills welcoming her back. She ran to the river, where Rowan was fishing. "Rowan," she called, her voice bright. He turned and smiled, but his eyes were sad. "You're back," he said, hugging her. "I missed you so much," Elise said. "The city was too much. I kept thinking about you." Rowan nodded, but he looked away. "I thought maybe you'd stay there. The city has everything. Art, people, a future." Elise took his hand. "I don't want the city. I want to be here with you." Rowan's face softened, but he still seemed worried. "Elise, I like you a lot, but I can't leave Mistwood. And you have a big life waiting for you." Elise felt a pang in her chest. "We can figure it out," she said. "Can't we?" Rowan didn't answer. He looked at the river, his hands tight around his fishing rod. The rest of the day felt heavy. They walked through the village, but Rowan was quiet. Elise tried to make him laugh, but he seemed far away. That night, she sat on the porch, holding the wooden star. She felt scared. What if Rowan couldn't trust her? What if their love wasn't enough? The next day, Elise went to Nana Rose. "I don't know what to do," she said, her eyes wet. "Rowan is scared, and I don't want to lose him." Nana Rose hugged her. "Love is hard, dear, but if it's real, you'll find a way. Show him he can trust you." Elise nodded. She decided to talk to Rowan again. She wouldn't give up. Chapter 5. The Storm. A storm came to Mistwood that night. Rain poured, and thunder shook the hills. Elise woke up, her heart racing. She thought of Rowan. His house was near the river. What if it flooded? She ran to Nana Rose. "I need to find Rowan," she said. "It's dangerous," Nana Rose said. "But if you must go, take my raincoat and be careful." Elise put on the raincoat and ran into the storm. The rain was cold, the wind strong. She reached Rowan's house, but he wasn't there. She saw a light by the river and ran toward it. Rowan was there, tying his boat to a tree. The river was rising, the water wild. "Rowan!" Elise shouted. He turned, his face wet with rain. "Elise? What are you doing here?" "I was worried about you," she said. "The river, it's dangerous." Rowan pulled her under a tree for shelter. "I'm okay," he said. "But the boat, I had to save it." They worked together, tying the boat tightly. The rain soaked them, but Elise didn't care. She looked at Rowan, her heart full. "I'm not leaving you," she said. "Not now, not ever." Rowan's eyes softened. "I'm sorry, Elise. I was scared. I thought you'd leave like my mom did, but you're here in a storm." Elise smiled. "I love you, Rowan." Rowan pulled her close. "I love you too." They stood in the rain, holding each other, the storm roaring around them. For the first time, they felt sure. The next morning, the storm was gone. The village sparkled, the air fresh. Elise and Rowan walked hand in hand, their hearts light. They knew they had a challenge ahead, but they were ready to face it together. Chapter 6. The Last Lantern. The summer was ending, but Elise and Rowan were stronger than ever. They sat by the river, the wooden star between them. "I have to go back to the city soon," Elise said. "But I don't want to lose you." Rowan took her hand. "I don't want to lose you either. I've been thinking maybe I can visit the city. I'm still scared, but I want to try for you." Elise's eyes lit up. "Really? And I can come back to Mistwood every summer. We can make it work." Rowan nodded. "We will. I trust you, Elise." They smiled, their hearts full. That night, the village held a small lantern festival to celebrate the end of summer. Elise and Rowan made one last lantern together. They wrote their wish, "Let our love light the way." They let the lantern float on the river, its glow bright against the dark water. The stars above shone, and Elise felt sure they would be okay. A week later, Elise stood at the bus stop, her bag packed. Rowan held her hand, the wooden star in her pocket. "I'll see you soon," he said. "I'll call you every day," Elise promised. They hugged, and Elise got on the bus. As it drove away, she looked out the window, watching Mistwood fade. But she wasn't sad. She knew their love would last, like the lanterns on the river, glowing forever. Back in the city, Elise hung the wooden star above her desk. She smiled, thinking of Rowan. Their love was a light that would never go out. And in Mistwood, Rowan looked at the river, waiting for the day he'd see Elise again. Their hearts were together, no matter the distance. Thank you, amazing viewers. We're so grateful to you for listening to our story videos on English through stories. Your support for adventures like The Light of Two Hearts and The Mystery of the Whispering Caves means the world to us. Keep learning English with us. More exciting stories are coming.